How we doing, everybody, and welcome back to the Catalyst, where we break down all things bullish in the crypto markets. Today, talking about AMP. So AMP did what AMP does today, where we had a pretty solid green candle, right? And it got completely wicked down. You see this kind of happen quite frequently, right? So we see it here, right? Big candle, and then wicked all the way down, big candle, wicked all the way down, big candle, wicked down, so on and so forth. Happens with some relative frequency. Totally fine and totally kind of predictable in some ways. So that's what we're seeing with AMP at the moment, was just kind of this big candle. What we did see, though, is it's actually hitting the 100 moving average, and you can see here, this is based off the Coinbase listing, so this is the 200th day that we should have been on Coinbase now. So we'll have all of these days of data points now to record that, and that's where you're seeing this red line start to come in, and it's right at the fib level. Additionally, the best thing about this today was just in general is we've flipped the 20 into support, so that's a bullish sign in general. Anytime we're above the 20, we're making money, and that's pretty simple, right? So you see here, we flip it, we go up, and we ride it as support, and then as we flip underneath it, that's when we're losing money. As we flip it with a healthier asset, right? Like, so Bitcoin, for example, as we're above it, we're always going to be making money. You see that? So that's just kind of just a generic, easy way to just evaluate the asset. Obviously, AMP is super volatile right now. It's a super low market cap. So it's going to have these big surges of 40% and then big crashes of 30%. It's just going to happen. But with that, I think we're just slowly increasing our average, at least. If our average was something like this a few months ago, right, where we're kind of floating in this range, ideally we're somewhere up here now, creating a higher average. That's kind of just how I view AMP in general. Like, for the longest time we were sitting at 4 cents, and that was kind of this range here, and now obviously we've had big surges and stuff like that, but now we're sitting at like a 5 cent average, and potentially in another month we'll be sitting at a 7 or an 8 cent average, and then and so on and so forth. So that's something like we're going to kind of do one of these, hopefully, where we just kind of slowly chip away and have these moves forward. The other thing I think that is important to note is we're strictly based on our use and less about the utility. We know that as an asset, AMP and the Flexi network is great. It's very useful for merchants. It's useful for consumers and everyone in between. We know that. That's well known. The difference is our value, the valuation of AMP alone, the collateral token for this network, is completely determined by how many people are using the collateral. So what we need is more people operating on the network, meaning the Flexi network, and then that way more collateral is issued, which means there will probably be better staking rewards for those staking AMP, which would draw more people to AMP, which would cause more people to buy AMP, which would then increase our capacity, and so on and so forth, which would all impact the value of a single AMP token, meaning we would be able to have some steady increase there. So that's really how this is going to work. And that's why it's been such a slow burn, right? That's why we have been just slowly just kind of trickling in this giant kind of like channel here. Obviously, a big player like Amazon or Walmart or something like that would send this pretty vertical. We've seen that happen in the past. The whispers of Amazon adopting the Flexi network or something like that. And we've seen Binance listings and so on as well. Again, those aren't necessarily the things that will drive it. When we are collateralizing most of Walmart's transactions daily, that's when we'll see AMP completely go through the roof. So just keep some of that stuff in mind. This is a great token to accumulate through a bear market, because I don't see it, losing a lot of value, but I also don't see it, necessarily like ripping up in value between now and then. It's going to be one of those ones that just slowly chips away, and you come back in a year, we might be at 12 cents or 15 cents or something like that. And for a lot of the crypto, that's not very good. But you come back in 10 years, you've had 10 years to potentially accumulate, and you know, we'll see some probably AMP millionaires at that point in 10 years, assuming the Flexa network stays on the track that they're on. Flexa has, you know, checked off one of their 3, you know, major paths or goals in terms of just allowing any crypto. So now the next step is to get it for any app and for any store, are the next kind of 2 steps for AMP and the Flexa network. So we'll see kind of how we go forward with that. I know they're targeting banks in 2022, but this is a pretty typical day for AMP here. And I think, you know, as long as we continue to push here and ride support on the 20, we should see, you know, us start to find these fib levels and hopefully begin to accumulate and get a bit higher here into a you know, a significantly higher range in the 7-cent range or something like that. Break this previous resistance that we have at 7.5 cents or so. So we'll see what happens, but otherwise we will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.